In my considered opinion, this is truly the safest and most secure method to store your valuable Bitcoin, primarily because you don't just possess a single hardware wallet, but actually 3 distinct and separate ones. Therefore, if one of them unfortunately breaks or gets irretrievably lost, you can still reliably and completely recover your precious Bitcoin without any significant issues. I'm Schnuartz, and today I'll explain how you can set up an extremely secure multi-signature wallet using Sparrow Wallet. For today's tutorial, I'll be using the Specter DIY, the BitBox, and the Blockstream Jade. You can also use more hardware wallets in a multi-signature wallet. For example, in a 3 of 4 setup, you would need 4 devices. In this case, I'll be using a 2 of 3 setup. That means you only need 2 out of the 3 available devices to sign a transaction. And theoretically, you could also potentially use, for example, 3 separate BitBoxes or 3 distinct Jades. Alternatively, you could even use just one single Specter DIY device and then proceed to create 3 individual seed phrases with it. In that particular way, you could effectively set up an entire and complete multi-signature setup with just a solitary Specter DIY unit. I'll make a video about that in the future. Instead of a BitBox, you can also use a cold card, or instead of a Jade, a Ledger, a Trezor, whatever you prefer. You can use whatever you like. However, I would recommend that you use 3 different hardware wallets, simply for the reason that if one of the hardware wallets has some kind of bug in its code, you are still diversified and protected. And then with the other 2, you simply have no problem at all if this bug, which could potentially be security relevant, occurs. That's why the DIY Specter is, of course, a pretty cool alternative if you don't have that much money, since you only need a single device. But if you can afford it, or if the amount of Bitcoin involved is really significant, then you should definitely use 3 different devices. Now, let's take a look at the Sparrow Wallet. You should open it now, and we're simply going to create a new wallet. To do this, go to File in the top left and select New Wallet. Now we can give the wallet a name. I'll just call it Multi-Signature Wallet 2. I've already recorded this video once, but unfortunately the recording got corrupted, so I have to start over from the beginning. We can now click on Create Wallet and are presented with a nice interface. Let's start right at the top left here. Right now, it's still set to single signature by default. Single signature is exactly the opposite of multi-signature. With that, you only need a single device to store your Bitcoin. So let's set the policy type to multi-signature. I would leave the script type on native SegWit. That's simply one of the newer formats. Now, up here on the top right, we can set up what kind of multi-signature setup we want. As I mentioned earlier, I want to create a 2 of 3 multi-signature wallet, but there are other configurations possible here as well, such as a 2 of 2. I wouldn't recommend that though, because there's really no risk advantage. If even one of the wallets is lost, all your money is gone. You could, for example, do a 2 of 3, which is what I did, or a 3 of 4, where you need 3 out of 4 devices. But I would always recommend 2 of 3 if you're not exactly sure what you're doing. That's basically the gold standard in a multi-signature wallet. There are other options and situations where they make sense. You might want to check out the video I made about multi-signature for more on that. I'll go into more detail about that there. For now, we'll keep everything as a 2 out of 3 multi-signature wallet. Now we need to add the different key stores, meaning the different devices. Let's just start with the BitBox. By the way, in today's tutorial, I'm doing it like this. On the BitBox, I already have a seed phrase on it, and I'm just going to keep using that one. That's what I would recommend to you as well. If you already have a seed phrase or a wallet that you've been using for your single signature setup so far, and maybe you've already stamped it into steel or something, then just use that seed phrase for your multi-signature wallet too. That way, you don't have to create yet another seed phrase that you also have to store. Just use the one you already have. Of course, it should have been created securely as well. Okay. As I said, I already have a seed phrase for the BitBox. For the Jade, I'll also use one that's already on the Jade. And with the Specter DIY, I'll show how to create the seed phrase yourself and how you should store it. Now let's just add the BitBox. For that, I have this cable from the BitBox here. And I just plug it into my PC. And then plug in the BitBox. Now we first have to choose the side of our BitBox that we want to use. I'll select the bottom so it's straight, and now we'll add the whole thing. To do this, we go to Connected Hardware Wallet in Sparrow Wallet, since it's connected to our PC via the cable. And then we select here under Connected Hardware Wallet. Scan, and now it's searching for devices. I still need to enter my password here, but I haven't set one, and my passphrase, which I also haven't set. Only now can it finally find our BitBox. And there it is. It's searching for all devices connected to our PC. And now we can simply go to Import Key Store, and then we have the XPub we need, the multi-signature XPub. There are different ones. Here, it simply automatically selects the correct XPub from the seed phrase that is needed. That's why we don't have to worry about anything with the BitBox, because it just does it automatically in the background. Of course, that means you end up learning less. So, Import Key Store. And now we have our XPub here. In my case, it's a TPAP because I'm doing all of this on the Bitcoin testnet. That's simply so I don't have to pay any on-chain fees, and I can demonstrate everything to you for free. For you, in the regular Bitcoin network, it works exactly the same way, one-to-one. Now we'll add the next device, the Blockstream Jade. For that, I've also connected a cable to my PC. I'll add that. I just plug it in at the back here and turn on the Jade. It turns on automatically. So now we first need to unlock the Jade. For that, we need to access the seed. To decrypt the seed, we first have to enter the PIN. And here it also needs to be connected to a companion app, because if that's the case, we can now enter the PIN. I've just set 000 as the PIN, since it's just my test device. Then you just need to continuously keep pressing the confirm button here and simply scroll either left or right to select your desired number. Once you've entered the PIN, you're in. And now in Sparrow Wallet, you can go to Connected Hardware Wallet. That's what I would recommend to you as well. But now I'll show you another way you could do all this if you're using air gap. Because as you know, the Blockstream Jade works with air gap. For example, you could also use a seed QA. You could scan it with that, or you could share the XPub via air gap. But I wouldn't recommend it to you because this screen here is just extremely tiny. Look at this. This is my thumb, and the screen is about twice the size of my thumb, while the QR code is only as big as my thumb, which I would then have to scan with my PC camera. And my camera just isn't that good. It just doesn't work well. With the Specter DIY, on the other hand, which has a much larger screen, it's absolutely no problem. Air-gapped signing is actually fun there. But with the Jade, I would simply recommend using a cable. But now I'll quickly show you how the air gap would work. For that particular purpose, we will proceed here on the right-hand side to the Scan QR account option. Subsequently, we navigate to Options, then confirm our selection. Following this, we carefully select Wallet, and it is crucial to first thoroughly check under Registered Wallets to ensure that it is indeed correctly set to multi-signature. This verification step is absolutely essential for proper functionality. If it's not set, you need to set it now. For me, it does this automatically because it's connected by cable. And then we go to Export XPub and can now scan this animated QR code with our PC. And as I said, it's only about the size of a thumb. So if it doesn't work for you, or if you haven't even tried it yet, just go back again. And then go to Connected Hardware Wallet and then to Scan. Then you should also find your Jade. Then just like with the BitBox, you can go to Import Key Store. Here we have our TPub again, or rather TPub. And now we add the next device, our Specter. With the Specter, of course, you first need to enter your PIN code. I haven't set one, so I just go to next. And then you could generate a new seed phrase under generate new key. You could also use 24 seed words if you want, and you could even add some extra real-life randomness to the generation. I've recorded a tutorial on how to do that. Once it's uploaded, you'll find it up here on the top right. And once you've done that, you can click Done here. If you don't do that, of course, make sure to write down the seed words beforehand. I've already done that in advance. If you've already created the words, you can simply go to Enter Recovery Phrase and just type the 12 words into the large screen here. That's much more convenient than with the BitBox or the Jade. If you've copied down the seed words as a QR code, seed QR, then of course you can just scan it. And then you'd have them here, so you wouldn't have to type them in manually. Or if you prefer, you could also just import them via SD card. Or if you've saved them on the SD card, you can simply insert the SD card on the side and select Open SD card file. And copy out the seed phrase. With the Specter Shield, the whole process will also work via smart card. Now, we'll do the whole thing using Seed QA. To do this, we go to Import Recovery Phrase, select Scan QR Code, and scan it in. Then we simply click on the Confirm button here, and now we have the essential options available to seamlessly link our Specter DIY hardware wallet with the Sparrow Wallet application and subsequently add it to our existing multi-signature setup. We will then proceed to the Master Public Keys section, and from there navigate directly to the multi-sig option. This is ultimately the key that we want to scan. And now we can simply press air-gapped hardware wallet in Sparrow Wallet, meaning via air, using a QR code in this case. And then scroll down to Specter DIY, click on Scan here, the camera will open, and we can simply scan it in. Now we have successfully added the very last XPub to our Sparrow Wallet, completing the setup process. If we're satisfied with all the settings here, we can click on Apply. Now Sparrow Wallet asks us if we want to set up a password. A password is useful so that, for example, if someone gets access to your Sparrow Wallet, meaning they get on your PC and open your Sparrow Wallet, that person can't see how much money is in your wallet without the password. It doesn't provide any security. There are only privacy drawbacks, not security drawbacks. You can only remove money from the wallet with 2 hardware wallets. That's why, for simplicity's sake, I won't set a password now. However, if you're already creating a multi-signature wallet, I would generally recommend setting a password. Now, another extremely important point, the descriptor that's being shown to us now. This is extremely important. It contains all the XPubs from our different devices. It's just extremely important for our multi-signature wallet, because the different devices need to be aware of each other, otherwise our multi-signature wallet won't work. And with this descriptor, that's pretty easy to do. But if you lose this descriptor, it could happen that even if you have 2 hardware wallets, and the third one is now permanently lost, you could potentially lose complete access to your digital wallet. That's precisely why I would definitely and strongly recommend that you store this crucial descriptor very carefully and securely. I would highly suggest adding this important descriptor to every single backup of your seed phrase. So if you currently have 3 distinct places where your different seed phrases are safely stored, just make sure to add this essential descriptor to each and every one of these backups as well. Just a quick heads up, this is incredibly important. For example, you can simply print it out from a PDF, and then you won't have this problem anymore, and you can be sure that you'll always have the descriptor. You could also, for instance, save it in your password manager. It doesn't contain any security relevant data, only privacy relevant data. This means that if someone gets it, they can see exactly how much money you have. That's why you shouldn't just send it around openly, but I think storing it in your password manager is a good idea, and I would recommend it to you as well. For now, we can save it in our password manager, or rather, and now we'll print it out. To do that, we go to Save PDF. Print it out and later add it to each wallet backup. I'll show you the best way to do that in a moment. What's important now is that you store your Bitcoin seed phrase securely. For that, I would recommend putting it in a security envelope, one where handwriting done with a pen can't be seen through, even if you hold a lamp up to it. However, the problem is that a QR code can still show through. That's precisely why I strongly recommend utilizing readily available cardboard, much like the sturdy and functional holder I meticulously crafted here myself. You possess the ability to effortlessly construct this simple yet effective solution on your own. Or alternatively, you can carefully cut and shape a piece of cardboard to perfectly accommodate and securely house your valuable backup device within its protective confines. This is simply to make sure nothing shows through and to ensure later on that no one can see your seed phrase. By the way, I know this all looks pretty much like a prototype. It is, which is why I'll be releasing the whole thing soon as a proper product in the Frankenstein shop. If you don't want to miss that, feel free to follow me on Twitter. And then, another important step in seed storage is simply to use a security bag. You can also get those in the Frankenstein shop if you like. And you can just put your seed phrase inside there. And also carefully put your descriptor card inside in such a precise way that you can still clearly and easily read the QR code from the outside of the bag. That way you can even quickly scan it without ever having to completely open the bag. So what exactly is so incredibly cool and innovative about this particular bag? The reason for using this bag is that when you seal it, it's immediately obvious if someone tries to open the bag. This is extremely important for multi-signature setups. This particular bag has a distinct number located at its very top and also at its bottom, and it is always, without exception, precisely the same. In stark contrast, other bags invariably possess a different, unique number. This means that if someone unauthorized opens the bag, opens the envelope, takes out the seed and copies or photographs it, then puts everything back as it was and attaches a new bag, so that you wouldn't notice that someone tampered with the bag, you can still recognize with the number you tore off that someone has interfered with your setup. Without such a security bag, this wouldn't be possible. And that's why I would simply recommend that you always use such a security bag to store your seed, whether it's on paper, in steel, or in other forms. It's just very important that you notice if someone has accessed your seed, so that, especially with a multi-signature setup, you can react and say, oh shit, this seed here is compromised, someone else might have seen it. I rebuild my multi-signature setup, replace the seed with a fresh new one, transfer my funds over, and then everything is secure again, and you can sleep soundly once more. By the way, you can also get the DivaSafe bags in the Frankenstein shop or wherever else you find them. Of course, you should also label such a security bag. You can write on it, put a date on it, and of course also down here. And then you can safely store this note in your drawer. I would also recommend that you write down your seed from the BitBox and the Jade again, or even better, engrave it in steel so that you're prepared for anything in case something happens to the device. That way you don't have to start all over again from scratch. By the way, I'm planning to release everything you need for a wallet like this as a complete bundle and list it in the Frankenstein shop. If you don't want to miss out on that, as I said, follow the BTC Frankenstein shop. By the way, you'll also find the cool Specter DIYs there. Before you unplug the Specter DIY, you should definitely do a penny test, just to check the robustness of the wallet, before you put large amounts on it. If it's already out, I'll link it here. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and as I said, as soon as the next part is out, you'll find the continuation here.